Hello, and welcome back to the Quantum Health Connection podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I'm your host, Vanessa Bolden, with my amazing co host, Heather Crimson. And today we have a really fun episode. We're going to talk about tissue salts. And Heather had this really fun idea, which I'm really excited about. She's going to share in a minute. But before we do that, I just want to remind you that if you haven't, rate it or like the show, please do that, or just like send it out to people who need to hear about it because we really want it to grow and keep sharing with others. So please remember to rate and review. We so appreciate that. It really makes a big huge difference, especially written reviews. So we really appreciate you being here and being part of our community. And yeah, I'm excited to talk with you about tissue salts today, Heather.
Yes, I am too, Vanessa. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. We have an idea about how to make it interesting and different. And it's going to be where I am interviewing you. So, yeah, you're going to be the star today. And I feel like lately, I don't know, it's the last 6 months or so, you've had this kind of love affair with tissue salts, or sometimes it's called cell salts. And you're in this vortex, like you're in this, this vacuum of everything cell salts related, and it's just beautiful to witness you, right, go into this deep dive and be so
Mhm.
passionate, so excited, and then
Mhm.
start applying, because one of the nice things about tissue salts is that you don't have to have like an extended training for yours in order to be able to, as you're going to see from today's episode, in order to learn about them and understand
Mhm.
them pretty well, solidly, right, to be able to then apply them to your life and your health issues, unless you have a super complex or like a chronic health issue that may warrant seeing a homeopath or a tissue salt expert. So today's
Mhm.
going to be an interview. So I just want to start off with, like, how did you learn about cell salts, Vanessa, and what about them was intriguing enough for you to be able to do this deep dive?
Yeah, I've been deep diving in them. And when I get into something and learning about something, I'm like, oh, I just want to like read all the infos, hear all the podcasts, do all the research I can on it. Like it's just so fun. And actually you had recommended the book The Tissue Salts of Salvation, which that's a complex read. I wouldn't recommend that one for beginners, but it's super interesting. And I'm really, I've always had this really great love affair too with astrology as well and astronomy, like in general. I always really was interested in it. And even when I was in college, you have to take, the regular like basic courses, right? I picked an astronomy course and I loved it. And even as a kid, when you go to the planetarium, I just loved that. So what got me interested in tissue salts was actually the astrology connection to it, because I was like, I like there's 12 zodiacs, there's 12 tissue salts. This is cool. Like I'm into that. And then the other piece that got me into it is noticing in myself and clients this issue of cellular dehydration, basically, and how that homeopathy works really on the exclusion zone water and the cellular hydration in the body, right? So if people are not responding, I think that there's usually a dehydration issue. So that also got me interested in like how can I help build the system up and have more charge, right? Of course, we do the sunlight, we do the grounding, we do all the basics, right? All the things, mitigating the things that would dehydrate us, right? But tissue salts are another way to help that cellular hydration, right? Because they're the minerals are part of the like the spark, the plug, right? So that's what got me so interested in it. And then like started experimenting on myself and with clients and seeing really good results. So yeah, then when I see the results for people, it's like, yes. And there when you think about like homeopathy, you're gonna be worrying about more, well, people get nervous about things like aggravations or what is this or what's gonna happen or how's it gonna go and da da da. Like they can get where tissue salts, kind of like flower essences too, they're more gentle, they work really more on the physical layer. They're just like a support. They're not going to cause like any aggravations or intense things. So you can kind of play with them on your own too, but definitely good to see somebody if you're really struggling and you don't know where to go and what to do and how to make it work. But yeah, they're a really simple tool, and they're like an anti-aging tool, I feel too, which is really cool, right? Like the minerals in our body are, like make up all of us. Like we are you Dr. Schussler, the one who found it out, and we'll talk about him. But wow, he actually was a homeopath who was like, this is too many remedies. I can't remember all of this. This is too hard. So he was actually not practicing. And I think he was doing something with cadavers and he burned the cadavers and he found like that what was left over. was these minerals. That's how he found out what tissue salts were. So there are these combinations of minerals, right, that would be part of you. And then he like linked deficiencies to different, parts of the body and things like that. And we can get into that. But anyway, very interesting that that's how he found out what tissue salts were. I'm like, by burning the body. But anyway, we are made up of these salts, right? We're made up of these minerals. So, we if we're deficient in them, we're gonna have symptomology, and that's just the truth of it.
I just had this random thought. I shouldn't
Mm.
even say it, but maybe salt is a misnomer because they're not all salt. But anyway, that's
Yeah.
probably the historical development of the name, the origin of it. But so Schussler, you mentioned Schussler, and then that's a
Mhm.
beautiful story, how you follow your passion, your intuition, right? And then you start learning, and then it evolves into this beautiful offering of healing. So I just
Yeah.
absolutely love that. So
Yeah.
tell us about, like, let's start from just, very beginning, very basic. Like, what exactly are tissue salts or cell salts? Are they like just like homeopathy? Are they actually, do they have any organic compound in there? And
Good question.
right, so Schussler identifies this, and then how do they get to be what we know today as tissue salts?
Yeah. So Dr. Sulsher was the one who found it out, and there are 12 of these essential mineral salts. They're found in every human cell tissue. I think I like the word tissue better, but in all your tissues are made up of these, tissue salts. Um, and like I said, he was a homeopath, and he thought that there were just too many remedies, too confusing. Working on the cadavers, like I said, and he burned them to ash, and he found that these are these 12 salts that are left. So when you asked about the question, they have any organic material? They do. So they are a form of homeopathy, okay? But they are in the X potency. So what that means is they're diluted somewhat. They're succussed and diluted, but they're not diluted to the degree of homeopathic remedies. So they're like a branch of homeopathy. Like a homeopathic remedy is diluted to the C potencies or the M potencies or the LM potencies. These are much stronger dilutions. So an X potency is only one drop of that mineral substance in 9 other drops of water. So it's one, the ratio is 1 to 10 in a 10x, or in an X potency, excuse me. In a C potency, it's 1 to 30. Or excuse me, in a C potency, it's 1 to 100. And in a 1M potency, it's one, or an M potency, it's 1 to 1,000. And in an LM, it's 1 to 1,500, 15,000, excuse me. So
That
they are
math you're going
a
on.
lot of math to remember. Oh, I'm sorry. So the cell salts or tissue salts will actually have some of the crude substance in them. So what's cool about tissue salts is number one, when you're taking these minerals, these 12 minerals to help rebalance your minerals and help with deficiencies that you have, you're going to have some of that crude form and the energetic form. So when you have the crude form and the energetic form, what happens is your body actually gets a little bit of the crude, but it also gets of the actual substance, but it also gets the energetic portion, which teaches the body how to use and absorb that mineral better, which to me is so much better than taking, say you found out you're deficient in calcium, right? And you want to take a calcium supplement. Well, instead of doing that, you could focus on calc fluor and calc phos and calc sulf, which are our tissue salts, and you can help support your calcium imbalance that way. And then you're teaching your body how to use and absorb calcium better.
Like
Where,
a synergy, right?
Mhm.
You get the synergy of the
Yeah.
energetic impact of the calc and then the actual organic material. So your body gets sort of like the instructions and the material to go, oh, okay, this is what I need to do here, what I do with
Yeah.
this substance.
Yeah, and then you're giving your body not something synthetic, it's more energetic and it knows what to do with it and it knows how to handle it and it knows how to use and absorb it. And the difference also between, like, say, taking, a synthetic supplement of minerals versus a tissue salt is it gets absorbed directly under the mucous membrane. So when you take a tissue salt, you say you're taking Magphos for cramps, right? If you have bad, like, period cramps, you could use Magphos. It's a great one. Well, you would dissolve the pellets. You would shake the bottle always, never touch the pellets, and you would dissolve the pellets under your tongue. And what it does is it gets directly into the mucous membranes. So now it's bypassing the gut issues. So most people who have mineral imbalances likely have gut issues, right? So now we're bypassing that gut issue. We're absorbing that mineral directly into our mucous membranes, and then it goes into exactly the tissue that it needs. It doesn't need to go to the gut first and get filtered through all of that. So that to me is also the genius of tissue salts as well. So as when it comes to mineral balancing, to me, I would rather use tissue salts over something synthetic any day. Like it
Well,
just
I
makes
see what you're saying about supplements. I don't know if minerals are synthetic, but I get what you're saying. Like that,
yeah.
you're talking about the high dose, magnesium, da da da. And calcium is a pretty tricky one anyway.
Yes,
But
it
these
is.
are just much more gentle and much easier
Yeah.
for the body to absorb and assimilate that way when you have this synergistic, complementary combination of the
Yeah.
substance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah, so it's like a good micro dose of a mineral. It's not this big heavy dose either. It's like in a micro form instead of like thinking like, this many milligrams, or whatever. It's just this little micro dose. It's a little nudge, just a little catalyst, a little reminder of how to have the body use minerals again appropriately. And it restores like cellular harmony because for our cells and tissues to work and function appropriately, we need these minerals. Like that's what the body's made out of. So yeah, I think they're really, really cool.
There's so many fascinating things about it. So we have the astrological aspect. There's
Hmm.
also a way that you can look at facial features and the way that your face is expressing any symptomology in order to also assist in the diagnostic process, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, you could look at astrology and you could look at facial features. Of course, you're going to look at symptomology that the person is expressing always because the symptoms are going to lead us to the correct remedy, right? So when we're in a consult with somebody and we're thinking about different homeopathic remedies, tissue salts, whatever, well, we're looking at the symptoms, right, to lead us towards that, right? Because whatever you're deficient in, you're going to have some sort of, you're going to have symptoms of that. Like if you're deficient in mag phos, for example, like I mentioned before, you're going to have more cramping during your cycles or during just in general, you could have more cramping, right? If you're deficient in, say, calc fluor, which is one of them, you might have more hypomobile joints. You might have more issues with like the elasticity. You might have more like your skin might sag and be wrinkly, right? That would be one of them. So, the symptoms will tell us what we need to work on. Um, so yeah, I mean, we just look at those symptoms and then we make a decision. There's ones for bags under the eyes. There's ones for certain different way the wrinkles are. There's ones for certain coloring of the face, coloring of the tongue, right? You can get really deep into this. The graying of the hair, the thin, brittle hair. The nails can tell us a lot. Like if the nails break easily and chip easily, right? If there's translucent tips in the teeth, that's gonna probably have issues with calcium absorption, right? So you're thinking of calc fluor, you're thinking of calc phos. If you have a lot of cavities and things like that, if you're osteoporosis, like there's just so many different applications for these salts and how they can be supportive to the body. So yeah.
Yeah. So let's just basically briefly go over each of these. We're not doing a whole tutorial here, you guys. We're just gonna mention the highlights, right, of each of these 12 tissue salts because we don't want to belabor this on a podcast. But calc fluor, because you're talking about the calc. So calc fluor, calc phos, calc sulf are the three calcium-based ones. And calc fluor is calcium fluoride, calc phos is calcium phosphate, and calc sulf is calcium sulfate. So calc fluor, what are the main things? You mentioned teeth, bones, and skin. Yes?
Yeah. So each one of the 12 tissue sources, not to make anybody else more confused either, there are the main 12. There are actually 33. There are 15 more additional ones as well. But we'll just go over the 12 today because we don't want it to be confusing. And we'll just give you like the top kind of things that they support, right? So they're a combination of minerals. So there's going to be like calcium and potassium, or like, there might be iron and phosphate or phosphorus, right? Or magnesium and phosphorus. So they're a little combination. So they're bonded with another element, right? So the calcium is bonded with the phosphorus, the potassium is maybe bonded with a sulfite, right? So that they have these combinations, except for silica. Silica stands alone. It's not a combination for that one. So they're different mineral compounds. So calc fluor is the first one, okay? And that one is really good for elasticity of tissues, like I was saying. So it's good for bones, it's good for teeth, it's good for skins, it's good for varicose veins. Someone who has like EDS, right? Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, who's always got more hypermobility and things like that, you'd want to think of calc floor. It's good for hernias, it's good for osteoporosis, like I mentioned before. It's actually really good for even weight management and just so many different things.
When
So
people hear fluoride, like calc fluoride is calcium fluoride,
yes,
what's the
thank
deal
you.
with the fluoride piece? Because that will raise red flags instantly.
It raised a red flag for me too. Like when I was like, wait, fluoride? But we have to remember that fluoride is actually a naturally occurring thing in our body and a mineral that we do need. So it's very, calcium fluoride is healthy for us, good, natural in our body, and something that we actually need. Very different from the fluoride that's put into our water or things like that that we filter out. I believe it's sodium fluoride, I believe. I think it's a different mineral compound if I'm correct, but I'm not, don't quote me on that. But it's not calcium fluoride. It's a different mineral compound that is not in our body regularly and that is not good for us. So
Ah,
this one is healthy for us. This one is in a different form and it's the one we want to put in our body and it's going to support our health, right?
nice. Good, good. Okay, so the
Good
next one
question.
is calcium phosphate, calc
Yeah, you'll
phos.
hear, yeah, or calc phos. And this one is good for bones. Well, again, it's calcium, so it's good for bone repair. It's actually one of the main remedies that you would go to if you broke a bone to support the healing phase. So you'd want to do calcium phosphate. I've used it many times for people in that situation, but it's really good for helping absorb nutrients, calcium phosphate, calc phos. So it helps with digestion, it helps with energy. Again, it's very also good for osteoporosis, things like that. And bone pains, like you'll see this in children who are having bone pains while they're having growing pains. Calc phos is a really good remedy to have. I think about my kids who had bone pains when they were growing. I'm like, oh man, they could have used some calc phos because it supports those tissues, like and helps them feel better during that phase. So really good one to have. But also I just want to say again, very supportive for nutrient absorption. So if you're someone with gut issues, you would want to think about calc phos also, because it helps all the other nutrients be absorbed, which is really
Nice.
important. Yeah,
Perfect. Okay.
yeah.
Next we
Calc,
have calc sulf, calcium sulfate.
yeah. So calc sulf is well, anytime you hear the word sulf, you're going to have this sulfur component. So you're going to think of detox pathways, liver purification, things like that. So cal sulf is very good for detox. It's very good for supporting the liver. It's very good for, helping the body remove what it doesn't belong. And it particularly is very good for stuff on the skin. And it particularly is good for any kind of acne or any kind of things that are discharging. So this could be like usually with a sulfur component, you're going to see a yellow forming pus. But so say you have like yellowish cystic acne, I know, but it's usually calc sulf has pretty gnarly acne. But you also might not see it expressing on the skin. It could be expressing in poor detox pathways as well. But say you have an ear infection and calc phos is very good for the ear too, but say you have an ear infection, it's just charging like this, like, yellowy pus or like an abscess or a boil or anything on the skin that's showing this yellowy pus and this body's got this infection and it's not really able to move it through, you would think of calc sulf. It's a really good one for purification, especially on the skin. Anything with pus, it's a great one.
Okay. Next up is ferrum phosphate, otherwise known as ferrophos. No, it's
Yeah,
not the same.
ferrum phos or ferrophos is the great oxygenator. So it helps with any first stage inflammation and helps with energy. So a ferrum phos, you want to think of it in cases of anemia, right? If somebody's dealing with anemia, you can think of it. And it's not like taking iron, it's ferrum phos is iron phosphate. So it's not like taking iron supplements, which I wouldn't recommend. This would only help regulate iron in your body. But it's also really good for first stage inflammation. In fact, just recently, I was my mom's 70th birthday. We were getting ready for, I was doing a big party for her at my house, and I had a cold, a pretty strong acute, actually, probably more than a cold. It's still lingering a little bit in me. and I had a low grade fever. And I was like, okay, Farron Foss, you got to do your thing, got to help me out. And it really did support me in that. So it's very good for first stage inflammation. Like you feel like you're coming down with something, you can go ahead and reach for Farron Foss in a 12X and it will be fine. Like there's no contraindications. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to harm you. You're not going to do it. It's like taking something without any kind of, you're not going to have any consequences negatively, only supportive. Like getting more oxygenation to your blood is only going to help you. Like, so it's very good for first sign of inflammation, fevers, acutes, things like that. Very helpful. So that's one way to use it. You also might use it, like I said, if you have anemia issues, or if you have an acute where you're like, I have no idea what the remedy is, right? And you can't figure it out. Farapause is only going to help. Like it really is. It's only going to support you. So, yeah,
That sounds like a winner to me. You need to have that on hand, right?
a
Yep.
million percent.
Oh, probably all of them actually. So next one of my favorites, this is the one I use, one of the three I'm taking right now is Kali Mur, otherwise
Mhm.
known as potassium chloride.
Yeah, this one, I've been doing some kind of energy testing with myself, on which cell salts to use for myself and using my intuition and also some energy testing. And I was like, I was shocked. I'm like, Cali Myrrh? I'm like, what do I need Cali Myrrh for? Like, what? Like, I was like, like when your body's telling you you need something, you're like, I don't think I need that one. So I started taking it. And this one's been so helpful for me. And I'm taking it now because it's very good for second stage inflammation. Okay, so ferrum phos, you think of that as your first stage inflammation. I'm coming down with the fever. I'm not feeling well. I'm getting this acute. Cali mur is like now all of a sudden there's the congestion and the mucus, right? So if you had a cold, think about how it like that beginning stages use ferrum phos and then go to Cali mur for like that second stage with all that mucus and congestion. So it's really, really good for that. It's good for mucus membranes and mucus balance, okay? Glandular health, like swollen glands and things like that. It's actually also very good for pelvic congestion or just like pelvic pain as well. It's actually really good for like mast cell activation syndrome, allergies. It's even worse from jabs, this remedy actually covers. So it's a really good one and it's been really supporting me. I mean, like I said, I've been playing with tissue salts for about a month or so, maybe 6 weeks. And one of my most challenging symptoms is just the mucous membranes of my bladder, just because I've had chronic bladder issues since 5 years old. They're really just not in great shape, honestly. And I've been doing all the things to fix my health, right? Like you can think of, and also just really supporting my body in the best ways possible and using homeopathy and all the things. And using these tissue salts has been helping those mucous membranes. I can tell because I can feel the symptomology of it. Just
But your
probably
pain level has gone down, right? Your pain is less.
so the symptom that I noticed shifting, which has not been able to shift, is kind of like this burning feeling when my bladder would fill. And like I said, it used to be a million, right? And it's like, annoying, like a 2 or a 3. But this month, using the tissue salts, Heather, there has been days I'm like, I don't even feel it. Like, and
Wow.
that is
That
amazing. And
is,
I know
yeah,
because it's supporting those tissues that support
yeah.
my bladder. It's supporting those mucous membranes. And Cali Mur, allergies, mast cell, worse jabs. I mean, I didn't put that all together, but it made sense after I read it. I was like, oh, actually, Cali Mur, let's take a lot of this.
So are you, well, wait, so what dose, I'm just curious, like what's dose have you been using? How often? And then are you going to continue to use it?
Yes, I will continue to use it. And what's funny too is I'll ask into the dose question in a second. I just want to tell listeners because one of the tests they do, which is awful and barbaric for bladder issues, by the way, is they fill your bladder with potassium and it will make the bladder like it hurts the bladder. It's like if the bladder feels bad when you fill it with potassium, that's like, oh, you have IC. So of course, I never had that test.
IC stands for interstitial cystitis.
Right. Like it's a chronic bladder inflammation, right? And I was like, well, I'm not going to take that ever, like that test, because that sounds barbaric and horrible to decide if you have. And that's because the potassium is probably irritating, right? The lining of the bladder. But what Cali Mur does is it's only regulating, not putting too much of something in your body. Tissue salts regulate. It's different. So I just had to add that in. Now, dosing, I've really been doing it intuitively, but I am taking Calimar every day, probably, I would say most days. But I am in
12x or
so Most tissue salts I recommend in a 6X.
Oh, okay.
There are a few, and I'll name them right now. I'm recommending a 12, which would be calc-phos, ferrum-phos, silica, and calc-fluor. And that's just from other recommendations from other homeopaths that I've learned, books I've read, what I've learned about this. Those ones work a little better at the X. You could also take a 6X and a 12X of the same cell salt, and that would be totally fine. And you could just take them both and cover your bases. It wouldn't be a problem. So yeah, Cali Mara for the win. I'm like, I was taking that one and Calc Sulf like nobody's business for a while, and they both support mucous membranes and they both help with detoxification. And I just feel like
Wow.
I wish I would have started playing with these sooner, but you only know only comes into your field when you're ready to receive the information. And
Right.
I was ready. So yeah.
That's a great testimonial for Gallimore and tissue salts in general.
Well, and
So
also
we have,
supporting the cellular hydration in general, like
yeah,
I mentioned before.
yeah, yeah. So we have
Yeah.
three Callies as a trio of Callies. So we just talked about Cali Mur, which is potassium chloride. Next up is Cali Phos, which is known as potassium phosphate.
Yeah. So the Callies, I want to mention too about the word Cali or the potassium. When you think of the word Callies, like on the mental emotional level and even on the cell membrane level, you're going to think of rigidity and very strong duty and responsibility. All the Callies kind of have this in conjunction. So anytime, even like there's a homeopathic remedy called Kali carbonica. Anytime time you hear the word Kali, there's usually some rigidity in the cells. There's usually some rigidity and duty boundness in the person, which I also resonate with for sure. I am very duty bound and can be rigid in a lot of ways. In fact, I was just told I'm like a tree, rigid like a tree. So yeah, I'll talk
Well,
about that on another episode.
there's
Okay.
some positives there, so it's not
No,
all
there's a lot of positives, but yeah, 100%. Very strong, very stable, very rooted, but also very can be rigid at sometimes. I'm like, yeah, that resonates. Okay, so Cali Foss is I think this one's a great one for everybody to have because it's very good for stress, anxiety, and burnout and exhaustion. I mean, who is not dealing with that, right? Like it's a nerve tonic. It's good for insomnia. It's good for pain. If you're dealing with pain, add in Cali Foss. If you're dealing with pain, I would say take Cali Foss and Mag Foss together because they're going to support that. And I am taking this one whenever I feel like I'm just burnt out. I'm stressed. There's a lot of things going on. I have a lot on my plate. And it's really a great one. So I would definitely recommend having that one for those things. Yeah.
sounds really good. Maybe I need that one today.
You
So
can take it, Heather. Just go for
I
it.
know, I know.
Yeah.
The last Cali is Cali sulf or sulfate, potassium sulfate.
Yeah, Cali Self. So this one has the duty bound and the rigidity of Cali, right? But it also has the sulfur, which is an poor detoxification process, right? So it's also good for late stage inflammation. So like if you had an acute or something like that, you have this like later stage inflammation that's not clearing up, like a glued ear from an ear infection that didn't clear up or something like that. It's very good actually for the skin. Cali Self is a very good skin remedy and it's good for oxygen exchange. So it actually works well with ferrum phos because ferrum phos is good for oxygenation of the blood, where Cali Self helps the oxygen exchange, which is interesting, right? And another cool thing about Cali Sulf that I always like to share in homeopathic terms, we call Cali Sulf the irritable pulsatilla. But what's interesting, and Schussler was the one who found this out, is that some of the like main homeopathic remedies, right? The plant remedy, it's made of what mineral, right? So he found out, oh, Kali sulf is actually made. I'm sorry, pulsatilla has a ton of Kali sulfate in it. So that's why it's similar. It's very similar in the picture, like pulsatilla picture or constitution is very similar to a Kali sulf picture. Kali sulf's also good for the respiratory tract, really good for like any like rattling asthma type of stuff that you have, especially at night. Very good for the lungs. Very good for the lungs.
Mm,
Hmm.
very important.
Yeah.
So next up we have mag phos or magnesium phosphate.
Mm. This is a woman's best friend, especially if you deal with like menstrual pain, menstrual cramps, spasms. You should have this. And what's interesting about Mag Phos, which I've learned, is that you can take Mag Phos. And you could take any remedy and dissolve it in water, but this one particularly, if you dissolve it in warm water, it actually works better. The warm water, this magnesium phos, which is interesting because this remedy is better by warmth in general. Like, so if you're cramping and you feel better with like a heating pad, that would correlate to this remedy. So if you take a couple pellets and you dilute them into warm water and you can sip it throughout the day when you're having menstrual pain is like a good use of this remedy. It's also good for just muscle cramps in general. Like, so if you feel crampy anywhere in your body, like you have leg cramps or whatever, any kind of cramping, it's good for. Any kind of spasming, muscle spasming, and nerve and menstrual pain, that is the use. It is very good for pain. You can also use it with Cali Foss if you are kind of in a burnout state as well and kind of, dealing with all that.
Mm, wow.
Yeah.
Nat Mur is up next. Sodium chloride. Sounds just like salt.
It is salt.
It's just salt. Yeah.
It's
But
just salt. It's just good old salt. But some of us don't know how to use our salt well, right? And this one is the Great Water Balancer. It's interesting. We're going to get into the astrology because I'm just, that's my favorite part of this. But Natmar is the Aquarius, which is a water sign, right? So it makes sense. So it's a great water balancer and also an emotional regulator. And all the water signs have to do with emotional regulation, right? That's why people who have that Natmar imbalance will have issues regulating their emotions. So this one is good for a water balancer. And it doesn't matter, like people say, I'm too hydrated or I'm dehydrated. It brings balance. So it doesn't, like either side of the spectrum, right? It brings balance. It's also a very good grief remedy. That's another topic of conversation. Now, do cell salts work on the emotional realm? I say yes, but not as profoundly as, say, taking like a Natmar or like 1M, right? Or 10M or something like that. Because everything's always connected. So it's good for hydration and water balance and just emotional regulation in general. So
Mhm.
you're feeling puffy, that kind of stuff. This is when you think of, you know,
Well, and people who are new to this and maybe new to health, alternative health in general, like, oh no, I can't do too much salt. This is
mm,
totally different. This is not anything to do with that.
no, it's only going to help regulate your intake of salt in your body better and your body better utilize and absorb. Think of these cell salts as like a tuning fork for minerals in your body. Like
I love
that is
that.
a beautiful way to think about it, right? It's just kind of like tuning the frequencies of these minerals in your body so that your body knows how to use them. So you're not going to have any issues. In fact, that's a myth with high blood pressure and salt.
Yeah,
Like
that's why I brought it up.
yeah, please. Thank you for bringing it up. Like that is a myth. First of all, eat good salt. So you want to have good quality, high quality sea salt. And I think that whole nonsense with like the toxic metals and salts is not something we need to worry about because we're going to be getting like that's what nature's going to have some arsenic. Nature's going to have some of that. It's normal. It's fine. So I don't think that's an issue either, personally. Um, but also, I would also say avoid the crappy table salts, but you need salt to actually regulate your blood pressure. That is the truth of the matter. So,
Yep.
yeah. I'm pretty sure Natmar is a remedy for hypertension, and either Natmar is a great regulator. So Natmar is like thinking about it from a constitutional state homeopathically. It's a good remedy for hyper or hypothyroidism. It's a good remedy for hypotension or hypertension. So it's interesting. It can go both ways. Yeah.
Love it. Okay. Coming in at number 10, nat phos or sodium phosphate.
Nat Phos. You want to think of Nat Phos for acidity versus alkaline balance in the body. So digestion that's too acidic. There could be joint inflammation, like gout. It's a good remedy for like gout issues and things like that. But it's really for I've got the heartburn, I've got that I feel too acidic, right? I feel like that. Now, this makes me think about, I have a lot of things to think about when I think about acidity versus alkaline, because I think of it as the form of you're not getting enough electrons and you have too many protons, right? But the nat phos will help you come in and bring that more to balance. So I do want to say too, you cannot take these salts once and expect to see like everything go away. It takes time. for them to like, it takes like, if you have like heartburn every day, it's not going to be like a Tums, when you take that off and it's going to go away. Like it's not going to happen. Like you need to start taking it regularly so the body again learns how to use and absorb. That tuning fork takes time to rebuild, and that remineralization in the body takes time. So it could take a few months before you really see a huge shift in it. It will happen. You just need to give your body time because everybody's different and unique, and some people need more or less time depending on how much suppression there's been, if you're still using those medications, all of that stuff, right? But it's really good for, I'm too acidic in my digestion, my joints, and all of that. That's what Nat Foss is used for. And I also want to mention Nat Murray is also great for allergies. I just forgot to mention that one too, but it is also good for allergies.
Okay. Nat sulf or sodium sulfate?
So this one is one I think that's really, really valuable. So it's has the sulfur component. So nat sulf is, sodium and sulfur. So whenever you have that sulfur component, you're going to think it's going to support my detox pathways, right? So you want to think about that. It's very good for like liver, gallbladder, bile flow. Very good for the it's also a water regulator in the body, but it's more this fluid metabolism. So again, it could nat sulf is usually too much water in the body. Like so if they go into a humid environment, they feel really worse because they can't regulate the water balance in their body already. And there's already too much water in their system. So when they're in a humid environment, they actually feel worse. So, same thing if they're in a moldy environment, they also feel worse. So, it's actually one of my top things I incorporate for clients when I hear that there's a mold issue. I'm like, oh, we're going to just add some nat sulfin in a 6X. And that's just going to be supportive to your tissues and your body and helping your body remove and detox that from your body. It's also a very good cell salt or remedy in general for another, like for jab issues. It also is a really good one for that as well. I thought that would come up more in my system, like with my energy testing, and it has come up very seldomly. But I think I'll take it more and more as time goes on, like intuitively. I do like that one.
Mm-hmm. All right. And last but not least, silica or silicon dioxide.
Silica is a powerhouse. It's all by itself, right? It's good for also good for jab detox. We'll say that. And it's really important for detox pathways or people who struggle with detoxification. Silica is a really good remedy for nutrient absorption. So if you're missing silica, you're not going to absorb your nutrients really well. Typically, these people um, can be pretty thin and emaciated, not always, but they can be more thin and emaciated and have a hard time putting on weight because their body is just not really good at absorbing nutrients. And then you'll see it in the hair, the skin, the nails, right? They're brittle, they break easily. The hair is, same thing, brittle, breaks easily. You'll also see it in the skin as well. They have trouble with detoxification of the skin because it supports detox pathways. You'll see it in the structure, kind of like calc floor, how I mentioned before, how it's good for elasticity and mobility and all that. Silica also, you can see it there as well. So silica is another clutch remedy. I'm taking silica daily now. I've added it in on a daily regular, and it's been good. So yeah, it's been a good one.
Nice. All right. So you've mentioned astrology a number of times, and that's one of the aspects of tissue salts that's very much enchanting to you. So I'm curious about how should we even present that? Because there's a lot, there's a whole book you're reading on it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but
Well,
basically the overview is that each sign is correlated to one of the tissue salts.
yes, that's the basic overview.
Yeah.
So each tissue salt correlates with a zodiac sign, which is also correlates with an organ, tissue, or like an energetic archetype, right? So you can think of Aries, right? I'll name a few. Aries is Cali Foss. And that Aries also is, remember we talked about before, it's like that anxiety, the nerve nourishment for the brain. But Aries in astrology rules the head. So it like makes sense, right? Um, it's interesting. Like I'm a Scorpio, so I'm a calc sulf, which calcium and sulfur have never really felt like when I started learning about homeopathy, I'm like, well, I'm in balance in both of these minerals like my entire life, like literally. So that's like, but I'm a Scorpio and I'm Calc Sulf. So that actually makes sense. I just need to take that on a daily regular. And that, Heather, governs the organs of the reproductive system.
Oh, well, there you go.
I mean, come on. Like, you can't make it up, right? Like, it's like, if you think that that connection is not real, I don't know. Like, because for me, I don't detoxify well. I don't have, my calcium absorption has never been solid my entire life. Calcium makes so much sense. And I've always had issues on the reproductive area. It's like amazing. Anyway, so each zodiac corresponds to, and I think if we go through all of those, it would probably be too much, but just that's the idea. Like Leo is Mag Phos, which governs the heart, the solar plexus, and the emotional warmth. Capricorn um is Calc Phos. There's a mistake there on that. Capricorn is Calc Phos, which helps with the structure of the bones and things like that, and mineral absorption. So it depends on when you're born. That's your sun sign. But I also wouldn't discount many other things about it, right? Your moon sign as well, which for me is I'm a moon in Aquarius, which is Nat Mer, which governs the water balance in the body and the emotional things that come up and things like that. So it's also like they're very, Aquariuses are very like, I want to heal the world, very me, like, so you also want to take into your moon sign. And then you could take it even further and be like, what's the bridge salt? Okay, so the bridge salt is, I'll use myself as an example because maybe it'll make sense to people, right? So I am born in a Scorpio, October 31st. Now loving my birthday. I've had a whole epiphany about that, right? So so I'm a Scorpio. Calc salt is a salt that I'm likely going to be deficient in. And the reason why, Heather, that you're likely going to be deficient in this, this was kind of mind blowing, is because okay, so we know we get energy from light, right? And we get nutrients from light, right? Okay, but the solar system of the time that you were growing in your mother's womb, where the planets are, actually, that light energy or that energy during that time actually helps us absorb that mineral better during that time. So, because I was not fully growing during the entire Scorpio time, I didn't get the entire, in my mother's room, the entire light energy and the entire ability to use and absorb calc sulf well, right? Does that make sense so far? Okay, so I would need calc sulf probably regularly on a daily basis, taking it daily. Okay, so after calc sulf would then be the next sign, which I think I have a chart in here, don't I? Because that'll help me remember because it's hard to remember all of these things. So after calc sulf would be the next sign. What?
Nat Foss. No?
No, it's not Nat Phos.
Oh.
It's sorry, my brain. Um I do know this information, guys. It just takes me a second to remember it all. Okay, so after that is actually going to be the next sign is going to be silica. Thank you. That's why I'm taking silica daily. So silica is the next sign, which is Sagittarius. So Sagittarius is the next bridge soul I would need because I did not grow at all during Sagittarius, right? I did not get any of that light energy to help
Well,
my
meaning
body.
that you were born and then you were lacking the months after you were born.
Correct. Thank you for
You say you
clarifying.
did not grow.
Yeah, I didn't grow during that time though in my mother's womb, right?
Right.
So I would be deficient in silica, and because in the Sagittarius sign of silica, which makes a lot of sense in my mind as well. So yeah, so because you don't grow during that time in your mother's womb, you didn't have the chance to learn how to use and absorb silica as well either. Then the next one that I would also be deficient in, because you're not in your mother's womb for 3 months, right? Think of the 12 months of the year, right? 9 months you're in your mother's womb, 3 months you're not. So not only the month you were born, but the months that you were not in your mother's womb. So silica, which is Sagittarius, and then Capricorn, which is Calc Phos, would also be one that I would be deficient in. That's your like January, like end December, January, like end of December, end of January. And then because I was well, actually not even because I was early. The next one would also be um Nat Mer, which is the January, February. So I'd also be deficient in that. So for me, if I was going to just look at my astrology chart, I would take calc, sulf, because it's my sun sign. Then I would take silica, calc phos, and natmer all rarely, regularly, because those were all ones that I did not use and absorb that energy well because I didn't grow during that time in my mother's womb. So that would be the ones. It also is interesting that my moon is also natmer, so I would take that one anyway. Because I was early, I probably was lacking some ferrum phos also, which is the next one, which is Pisces, which is like that February, March time. So I probably am lacking that also. So you can go ahead and just like take those salts. It's totally fine. Like the ones that are, they're not going to harm you. That if you want, if this resonates, some people mention this, the astrology thing, and they're like, no, it's not for me. Fine, then don't do
Well,
it.
and also people's, depending on their faith, it's not going to be their cup of tea, which is fine.
Totally fine, right? So like get like the if it feels good for you, then do it. If it doesn't, then don't. But you could totally try it and just see what comes out. And I've been trying it and I've been feeling better. So I'm like, I'm gonna go with it. So I'm taking all of those ones I mentioned, but I'm also taking other ones too that also resonate with me at like other times. Like if I have my period comes up and I want to take, some MagFos, I'm going to do it. If I feel more burnt out, I'm going to take some CaliFos. If I feel like I love that I can just play with them. They're super safe. There's no contraindications. There's nothing to worry about. There's no aggravation. Like there's nothing to worry. You're not going to harm yourself. You're never going to, it's not like if I took too much iron in a supplemental form that I could harm we don't recommend anyway. You could actually cause dysfunction. Like you're not going to mess up other minerals. Like say for example, if you take too much calcium, you can displace magnesium, right? That's what happens. They work synergistically. All these minerals work together. Not really in a tissue salt because the body's just going to take what it needs. It's not like taking it in a crude form because it has this energetic component. It's different. So
Yep.
that's why I feel like it's super safe for anybody to give a try, you know?
Yep. It's,
Yeah.
yeah. So I would say that, like, compared to a homeopathy, where you're really just able to use the knowledge you have for acutes more
Yeah.
safely, for tissue salts, the whole thing is available to people. So in most natural food stores, Vanessa, they have Highlands tissue salts. I mean, some people think they're okay. Then some of our colleagues think that they're not the greatest quality. So what do you
Yeah.
recommend for people if they want to start to look into this? Like, what's just a very good basic book, perhaps, if there is one you've come across?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
and then where would they get the best quality tissue salts?
I'm agreeing with you on the Highlands thing. So I don't recommend that one as much. They have a 12 in 1, but you could also take a 12 in 1 too. We didn't mention that. You could. If you feel super depleted and you feel like I need all of these minerals, you could also do that. So you can take that, but then you could also like take the 12 in 1, but then I'm also going to take some extra calc phos because I'm a Capricorn, right? Or something like that, or because that resonated with me, right? You could do that. I like Helios a ton. Helios is a great, great company. So that's one of my favorites.
Where do you get that?
You
I
can
mean,
just go to, it's online, Helios. Yeah,
okay, and
Helios.
that's US or is it abroad?
So that is abroad, but they ship to the US. So
Okay.
I've ordered from them. I also like Uranus, which is also abroad, but they're actually on Amazon. And if you buy from Amazon store, fine, right? You're buying from the, like, I wouldn't just get anything on Amazon, like from any company, but if I'm buying from the Uranus store, I feel like that's pretty safe. So those are the two companies that I use mostly for my tissue salts. There's also a company called Jackson's, which I've started using here and there, which seems to be working pretty well as well. They had ones that don't have any sugar or lactose. Like some people don't want that, so we kind of try to accommodate. This book is $3. It's $3, I think, or something. I think it's five when you like buy it on
The
Amazon.
biochemic prescriber by whom?
I think I could read his name. That's
I
a good
can't see
question.
it.
It's Parakasan Shahan. So it's PrashantShan, the biochemic prescriber. A great little book about tissue salts. It's not going to go over the astrology connection, but it'll help you learn tissue salts. It's so cheap. It's like every person should have this. Every mother should have this. Everybody should have it. This one is also really great. This one is Tissue Salts Rediscovered. This is by Lisha Shebeck. Awesome little book. I love her little pictures in here. She does such a good job. Like, I mean, really, like they,
Okay, you guys, she's coming on the podcast soon.
yeah, I can't wait to have her on. I love her books. All of her books are great. Buy them all. and they're reasonably priced. I don't have the salts and salvation, it's
Well, I
upstairs.
think that would be something
That
we would not
that is
recommend right off the bat.
that
No,
is
no, no.
not what I'd recommend, but this one is pretty good. This is the facial diagnosis one.
So it's
Um,
called Facial Diagnosis of Cell Salt Deficiencies. And he does in the end
David
of every
Card.
chapter, sorry.
David Card is his name. David
Okay,
Card.
at the end of every tissue salt chapter, he has a little blurb about the astrology if you're interested in that.
Yeah, he does. He does. Yeah. And I also have a course. It's a tissue salt course. You could take that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
that's my first recommendation.
yeah, oh, he's so sweet. Yeah, you could definitely take that. And it's what's nice is, it's good for moms. It's good for, home prescribers, but it's also good for practitioners. Because if you want to learn how to help people support their mineral balance, of course you can do HTMAs and things like that. I'm not a big fan of using just the mineral supplementation. I would use this. I would go by somebody's symptoms. So you can learn the symptoms that someone would express when there's a deficiency in silica, when there's a deficiency in mag phos, right? You'll learn those symptoms by the facial recognition, the systems of the body that would show it, all the things. You can learn the clues to figure out which cell salt they need, and then you can use that in your prescribing because it's safe. You don't need to worry about it, and you can support people there. So it's also good for practitioners to learn this information, I find. And it's great for moms. So you can get that lifetime access. It's an ebook and a video of me. Heather was watching yesterday. She noticed my red screen in it. I
Oh,
forgot.
that's okay.
Yeah, it's all good. But mineral balancing really does matter. Like it has a hand in our energy production. It has a hand in our enzyme activity, detoxification, right? It helps us process, stress. Like we burn through minerals like crazy due to stress, number one. Like it helps with, toxin overload. It helps with detoxification of, antibiotic use. The soil's so depleted. Like there's so many reasons to use them. Like I could think of like so many. And like without minerals, we literally can't hold hydration. Enzymes can't activate, communication between tissues and cells breaks down, right?
Then you have the histamine issues coming online. So it's like a
Yes, yes.
cascade of issues. And so we got to get that mineral balance and on board and get yourself hydrated, your exclusion zone water working. Yeah.
Yeah. It helps with the electrical flow. Like minerals are the spark of the electrical flow in the body, right? So you're going to have clearer thinking, steadier energy, more emotional calmness or less reactivity, like. And I think when it comes to like beauty, right? Like people want the beauty hack. Well, it's about healing from the inside out, right? So to me, if you want the beautiful hair and the nails and the skin and all the looking younger and the less like the different wrinkle patterns show different cell salts, right? You want to help support all of that. You got to build that hydration and that mineral balance from the inside out. So like they're remembering how to they teach the tissues how to remember as a tuning fork, but how to speak to each other again, right? Like it's just so
Beautiful.
important. Yeah. So
Yeah. And they're super affordable. They're
yeah,
easy
super
to
affordable.
get.
Yeah.
You can
Every
take your
health
stock.
food store has them probably too.
Right. Well, they have the Highlands. If you can't get, if
Oh
you,
yeah, that's
you're
right.
not, you can get the good stuff on Amazon. If you don't want to do that, you can use Highlands, but you can also just order direct. We'll link everything in the show notes
Yes.
for you guys.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, I like Helios. If I was going to pick a brand, if I was going to tell you the brand that I like the most, I would pick Helios. I really like that company just in general for their very good quality homeopathic remedies also. Because tissue salts are a form of homeopathy. I mean, they go through the same process. They're just less dilute is what they are. They are less succuss and dilutions, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today and joining us in this very, very stimulating and essential conversation about tissue salts. We hope you can take this information and use it to help yourself in your healing journey and share it with everyone you know and try them out. You don't have anything to lose. There's no risk. You can
Mm-mm.
only benefit. So please check out Vanessa's course.
Yes, course for sure. I really appreciate that. And I also want to say some homeopaths will say, "Oh, you can't use tissue salts together." So always check with your homeopath because you don't want to I want you to follow what their recommendations are, but in my experience, they don't antidote because I just, you know,
Thank you for
been
that.
through
Yeah,
it. So
that's
I want to
important.
just say that because they're working on a different plane. because it's an X potency versus a C versus an M or an LM. It's different levels of energy in the body, so they're not antidoting, in my opinion and in my experience with clients, with myself. I wanted to say that. And I do book in for tissue salt consults. So if you wanted to, like, you're like, I'm interested. I want to learn about this, but I'm not sure which ones I should take. I want some support and guidance on how to use them and how to dose it and all the things and all of that. I do, and I use your facial and the symptoms and all the things, astrology, if you want it. Like I'll use all those tools to help me figure out which ones will best support you. So you can also book in with that. And if you're not ready for homeopathy, it's a great start.
Mhm.
And I would also say sometimes, I know I'm a chatterbox at her, but like I have to put this out there. If homeopathy is not working, the cellular hydration is not right, is not working in your body, and then we can start with this first. It will
Yeah,
make
it's a good building block. It's a good
it's a
stepping
good
stone.
support
Yeah.
stepping stone building block, right? Exactly. Beautifully said. Yeah. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
we, and I think we're going to have someone coming up on our podcast in the next
Yes.
couple of months who will share with us more about the astrological,
Yes. Oh yeah, he was
right?
he was way deeper into it than me. And I actually just was listening to a podcast about astrology and homeopathy. I've listened to a few and I'm like, I feel called into this.
Ooh,
I
yeah.
really feel called to learn how to intersect these two things together and how to use someone's blueprint that they were born with in prescribing homeopathically also. If you got a lot of blue in your sign, like in your chart, right? You have a lot of blue. You're a very emotional being. You're a water being, right? You're very emotionally driven, right? Like these things matter, right? So knowing this information about the person, I think it could really just accelerate things for
I can
people.
see
So
your excitement and your passion. It's
I
so
know
nice.
this
So
conversation has been so
wonderful.
fun for me. Like I love it. Like I said, I have a big passion for astrology. So just putting
Yeah.
these pieces together is cool. It's very fun. So
Well, Vanessa, thank you for being a guest on your own show. Thanks for tuning in,
so fun.
everyone. Stay
It was
tuned
so
for
fun.
more goodness on the way, and we will see you next episode.